There's a Rashi in Parshas Mishpatim where Rashi brings down a pasuk in Shmuel that the Torah is referred to the Nimshal HaKadmoni. Mashal HaKadmoni or Mishal HaKadmoni, which means the Torah is referred to as the Mashal of Kadmoni Shal. Hashem is called Kadmoni Shal. He's the one who preceded the world, and the Torah is Hashem's Mashal. Why is Torah called Mashal HaKadmoni? Why is Torah called a Mashal? There's a Mashal and there's a Nimshal. Whenever there's a Mashal, there's a Nimshal. The Nimshal is the idea that you're trying to get across. So if you have a Mashal and a Nimshal, why can't you just give the Nimshal? Why do you have to give the Mashal? And the answer is that you're talking to people who obviously, the Nimshal is not their language. They're not very familiar with the concepts and the ideas. It's beyond them. It's higher than them. But if you take the same idea and you dress it in a lower level, then suddenly they're able to relate to it somewhat. Why? Because the essential idea in the Nimshal is there in the Mashal also, but in the Mashal it's wearing a lower level garment. So for example, you have a whole sefer in the Torah that's a Mashal, Shir HaShirim. So the whole Shir HaShirim is about the love between a man and a woman. But it's a Mashal. What is it a Mashal for? It's a Mashal about the love between Klal Yisrael and Hashem, right? So Shlomo HaMelech realized that if he's going to start writing a sefer talking about all the love between Hashem and the Yidden, it would be way too high for us to be able to relate to. So he put it into a mashal, and he used terms and ideas which the human being can readily relate to, because the love between a man and a woman is something which we experience in our world all the time. But essentially, the ideas are all the same in the Nimshal as they are in the Mashal as they are in the Nimshal. There's actually a pasuk which talks about the wisdom of Shlomo HaMelech, where it says that Shlomo HaMelech, it says Vayidaber Shloisha Alfei Mashal. The Shlomo HaMelech, he was so wise, he gave 3,000 Mishalim. So the pasuk pshat of that is that there was one idea, and there was a single idea that he wanted to convey. And Shlomo HaMelech was so wise that he was able to give 3,000 separate mishalim to illustrate the same idea. That's the way this pasuk is commonly understood. Says Chassidus, there's a totally deeper understanding over here. It's not that he gave 3,000 mishalim to explain one point. No. There was one idea which was so lofty that the only way for people to understand it is for 3,000 mishalim one on top of another. In other words, first he had to give, or actually he started from the bottom. He gave one mashal,
which is the easier one.
And then once they add that mashal, they're able to have a little higher understanding. Another mashal. And it took 3,000 mishalim, which were like an onion, like the layers of an onion, until finally he was able to relate to the people the idea that he was trying to give over. And that's really what Torah is. Torah is a mashal. What is the nimshal of Torah? The nimshal of Torah is Hashem. When we're learning Torah, that's only a mashal. Just like a mashal, when you understand the mashal, you're able to arrive at the nimshal. So the original nimshal of Torah is Hashem. However, there are 3,000 mishalim, where Torah is actually much more, because Torah comes down through the levels. And in every level, it's a lower mashal, a lower mashal, a lower mashal, a lower mashal. But even after 3,000 mishalim, or even after an infinite amount of mishalim, no matter how much Torah comes down, ultimately, the nimshal is within every single mashal. The nimshal being Hashem. And by the way, this is a very fundamental understanding when we're learning Torah. Is that when you're learning Torah, it's only a mashal. Imagine the Dubna Magid has many mishalim, right? There are books, the mishalim of the Dubna Magid. So you have some people who will take a book of the mishalim and they'll read it. Oh wow, that's a beautiful story. A king and a queen and a prince and a princess and what a great story. Okay, not bothering with the nimshal. Okay, now next story and the next story, and they're going to go through all the mishalim without the nimshal at all. Wow, look at these beautiful stories. He was a magnificent storyteller. You know, mamish, almost like Grimm's fairy tales was the Dumna Magid. obviously they're missing the whole nekuda. They're missing the whole point. Every single mashal that was given by the Dubna Magid or any other person who gave a mashal b'frat gadol b'Yisrael, the whole point of the mashal is to convey the nimshal. And if you don't convey the nimshal, if you forget about the nimshal, you miss the point. The same thing is, if a person learns Torah but forgets the nimshal, Rahman al-Islam, you're learning Torah, and you're learning all the halachas, but you're forgetting what is the point of Torah. The point of Torah is not the king and the queen and the prince and the princess, the story in the mashal. The point in the Torah is Hashem is there. And by learning Torah, ultimately you're connecting to Hashem. Why? Because Hashem is within every word of Torah. Every word of Torah is a mashal for Hashem, and Hashem is the nimshal. Then your whole approach to Torah is different. And then also it doesn't make a difference which part of Torah you're learning. As Dr. Rebbe says earlier in Tanya and Perikei, you could be learning the halacha of Yer and Idachas. You could be learning a halacha of Pigul or Neiser, halacha which has zero application to your life. And you have the same geshmak in learning that halacha in Torah as you do learning a beautiful something which is so relevant to you, whether in halacha or whether in hashkafa, whatever it may be. Why? Because you have to realize that when you're learning Torah, any halacha that you learn or any hashkafa that you get is all fringe benefit. That's not the nekuda. The nekuda of Torah is that it's a mashal. The nimshal of Torah is Hashem.